So, I would now like to introduce the Minister of the Environment, Alex Attwood MLA, who will also provide his opening remarks for this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together.
Thank you very much. When I go home at tea time tonight, if I get home at tea time tonight, I will tell my 6-year-old daughter, Nora, who's a Titanorac, that I made a speech in the Titanic building from the replica stairwell from the Titanic building, and she will be mighty impressed. So if nothing else, thank you for giving me that opportunity to tell my 6-year-old daughter that story. I don't watch car programs on TV, but there was one night that I did watch Top Gear, and honestly, there's only been one night, and it was the one night when the aforementioned gentleman that Quentin was talking about was reviewing a car, and for all the comments, and there are many made about him, that night I agreed with him because he did a review of a car and he said it was the best car in the world, the Skoda Yeti. And given that I had about 3 months previously bought a Skoda Yeti, I was mighty impressed with what he said. So when the Skoda Yeti becomes an e-car, then it will be the best electric car in the world, and maybe he'll do a follow-up program. Could I acknowledge and thank all those who have contributed to the e-car project. It is not just central government, DOE and DRD, and Minister Kennedy apologises that he's not able to make it today due to ill health, but it's also our local council partners and our private sector partners, because all of them have put together this project, which in my view reflects some of the comments that were made by Quentin in his opening remark that I'll come back to. So I want to acknowledge the 21 councils that are involved, because without them, the rollout of the charging points would have been somewhat more difficult. But I also want to acknowledge Donnelly's, NIE, Power NI, ESB, Intel, SAP and SIB, and if there's any partner that I haven't mentioned, I apologise and I acknowledge you too. About 2 or 3 months ago, I convened a meeting of executive ministers, actually asked for a special meeting of our executive, inviting all ministers to attend. And the purpose of the meeting, the special meeting, and 4 or 5 ministers did attend, and it was on a sitting day in the Assembly, which is not easy to arrange. And the purpose of the meeting was to address the singular issue of climate change. And the meeting occurred in that period of time when Doha was meeting, and the Climate Change Conference was meeting in Doha. And we brought over one of the senior people in the Met Service. And as Doha tells us, and as the senior person in the Met Office told the ministers, climate change is accelerating, and that on a political level, our response to climate change must accelerate as well. And if we don't have that simple thesis going forward, then we will live with the consequences for generations hereafter. So what does that mean, in my view, in terms of Northern Ireland government? And I like the word, and I'll use it in speeches hereafter, that Quentin used, that we should be the epicentre. So what should we in Northern Ireland be the epicentre of? Many things, perhaps a bit better politics, but it'll include that we should aspire, given the scale and size of this small place, which makes things potentially more manageable, we should be and aim to be a world leader in carbon emission reduction. It's actually a phrase borrowed from the Scottish Government Programme for Government, and the Scottish Government, in my view, is the best government in these islands. But they have an ambition to be a world leader in carbon reduction. We should be the same. We should see renewables as our single biggest economic opportunity. Why? Because the quality of the wind, the wave, and the tide in this part of the world is unsurpassed in the world. And if you think about it for a minute, it's inevitable, because most of this island faces in to the Atlantic Ocean. And the quality of wind, wave and tide that is generated means that scientifically we are in the best place in the world to drive a renewables industry, never mind the R&D, manufacturing and service hubs that can be generated as we roll out renewables. It is not beyond our ambition to be self-sufficient in electricity in no time at all and be a net exporter of electricity into other national grids. But as Quintin touched upon, why can we not be a European leader in e-cars in order to give further expression to the ambition to be a world leader in reduction of emissions? And that's why I think this event yesterday and today is so important. Yesterday, it was the day of the school children to gather in this place, to drive the cars. Apparently some of them were even driving them out on the roadways, because they know better than we do what the threat is and what the obligation and our response should be. And just as yesterday was about the schools, today is about the business. And I can't add anything beyond what Quintin said in terms of what the opportunities are. There's going to be 25, 30, 35 vehicles out there, so it's not the lack of vehicles. And when you cost it all through, it's not a lack of value. It is all about an issue of will and ambition. And as Quintin said, in our own way, we are already demonstrating that we are ahead of the curve, that we could be an epicenter. The fact that 160 charging points will be available in the next 1 or 2 months, with nobody being any more than 10 miles from one, the fact that we'll have over 10 rapid charging points, and that no part of these islands is set up like that, in my view, gives an indication of where we should go. But on the other hand, in the private market, I think it's 60 vehicles have been sold in the last while, and 60 is a very small percentage, given that there may be European requirements laid down that 4% of all vehicles by 2020 should be e-car vehicles. And the consequence of that in terms of our own spend and our own purchases will be very significant. So I'm sorry that I won't be able to stay, because the executive meeting that was meant to be this afternoon at 2:30 has been changed to 11:30 this morning, and I have a lot of business on it. So unfortunately, I won't be able to hear. But I do agree with Quintin. I've had the pleasure of driving an e-car. I couldn't adjust to the silence of it, and I couldn't adjust quickly to the lift-off of it. You probably know that very well. But they are the future. And as part of the addressing of climate change, as part of economic and commercial opportunity, renewables being Ireland's biggest economic opportunity is not just about green energy, it is about green jobs, and there are many of them out there. I'm going to perhaps end in a slightly strange way. There'll be 1 or 2 of you here, certainly people who used to be in DSD and my own private secretary will know that the single biggest influence upon my political thinking, besides certain Irish politicians that I won't detain you with, is the late Robert Kennedy. And Kennedy had a great turn of phrase, he had great speech writers, his very flowery language, his very theatrical. But if you look at the movie Bobby, which is this movie about the last period of his life, they intercut it with film of Kennedy talking to people in the latter part of his life, including a snippet of him talking to children. And what does he talk to children about? He talks to children about the environment. So here we are in 67, 68, with all of the issues around at that time, and Kennedy talks to children about the environment. And it wasn't opportunism. His son, Robert Kennedy Jr., is now one of America's leading environmentalists. But what he talked to them about, besides the issues of the environment, was something much more profound. And he was talking about what the gross domestic product meant. And he said that whatever it means, it doesn't measure the quality of our seas, the scale of our redwoods, the laughter of our children, the beauty of our homes and families. In many ways, the gross domestic product measures everything why, as he put it, we are proud to be American. And I think there is something in that in this beautiful place of the north of Ireland, which even Prince Charles, or including Prince Charles, says the scale and wonder of our built-in natural heritage is unsurpassed in any part of these islands. Is there not something that as we shape our politics and our society going forward, given the scale and wonder of our environment, that we not only protect it, but that we demonstrate how we can deploy new thinking and new practice, including about how we travel our roads. As Bobby Kennedy said, history is shaped from numberless diverse acts of courage and belief. Well, if this room goes out of this place with numberless diverse acts of belief in the e-car future, then I think the society and all of us will be the better for it. Thank you very much. Thank you.